India and Pakistan won independence from England in August 1947, following a nationalist struggle lasting nearly 3 decades. It set a vital precedent for the negotiated winding up of European empires elsewhere. Unfortunately, it was accompanied by the largest mass migration in human history of some 10 million. As many as 1 million civilians died in the accompanying riots and local-level fighting, particularly in the western region of Punjab, which was cut in two by the border. The agreement to divide colonial India into 2 separate states, one with a Muslim-majority Pakistan and the other with a Hindu-majority India, is commonly seen as the outcome of conflict between the nation's elites. This explanation, however, renders the mass violence that accompanied partition difficult to explain.
If Pakistan were indeed created as a homeland for Muslims, it is hard to understand why far more were left behind in India than were incorporated into the new state of Pakistan, a state created in 2 halves, one in the east, formerly East Bengal, now Bangladesh, and the other 1,700 kilometers away on the western side of the subcontinent. It is possible that Muhammad Ali Jinnah, leader of the Muslim League, simply wished to use the demand for a separate state as a bargaining chip to win greater power for Muslims. Certainly, the idea of Pakistan was not thought of until the late 1930s.
An Act of Parliament proposed a date for the transfer of power into Indian hands in June 1948. The British Viceroy governor made more difficulties by focusing largely on Jinnah's Muslim League and the Indian National Congress led by Nehru. The 2 countries were hurriedly drawn up by a British lawyer, who had little knowledge of Indian conditions, and with the use of out-of-date maps and census materials. Communities, families and farms were cut in two, but by delaying the announcement the British managed to avoid responsibility for the worst fighting and the mass migration that had followed.
Many have wondered why the British and Indian leaders did not delay until a better deal over borders could have been agreed. Well, immediately before World War II, India was ravaged by the impact of the Great Depression, bringing mass unemployment. This created tremendous tensions between Muslims and Hindus, made worse during the war by inflation and food grain shortages. Rationing was introduced in Indian cities and in Bengal. A major famine developed in 1942. The resulting discontent was expressed in widespread violence. This was interpreted by the British as evidence of the irreconcilable differences between Hindus and Muslims.
Strong support for the idea of an independent Pakistan came from large Muslim landowning families in the north, who saw it as an opportunity to prosper. Support also came from the poor peasants of East Bengal, who saw it as an opportunity to escape from the clutches of moneylenders, often Hindu. The heartland of support for the Pakistan, however, lay in central North India, which was not included within Pakistan. Muslims from this region had to flee westwards and compete with resident populations for access to land and employment, leading to ethnic conflict.
At independence, in India and in Pakistan, civil unrest as well as ethnic and religious conflict threatened the stability of the new country. However, the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi by a Hindu fanatic strengthened the hand of secularists within the government. This made India the world's largest democracy and consolidated governmental authority over the entire subcontinent. For both India and Pakistan, the most singular conflict unresolved since partition has concerned the state of Kashmir, whose fate was left undetermined at the time the British left. Lying as it did on the border, Kashmir was claimed by both countries, which have been to war over this region on numerous occasions. Since it is Muslim, Pakistan wants it, but India said they were promised it by the former ruler. The conflict has been a waste, but if peace is won, it might once more set an example for post-colonial societies elsewhere in Africa, Asia and the Middle East to imitate them.